So Ra said that one of the things that struck him the moment that we were looking at these cardinal stars is not only the trigger of mutation, we can see Fomalhaut in its mutation. These cardinal stars in 2007, this is the imprint of what he was looking at when he was creating this for us, that this clearly, this depth of the mutation is something that needs to be expressed in terms of what it is from the cosmic scale, which is, according to him, somebody turning off the lights. That's what this is, turning off the lights. And so we can see not only the 55 and the 29 across these two here, 55 and 29. And besides the 9 and the 16, we can see that the energetics of the background frequency shift has some relatability through that one arm of the cross, 9 and 16, and some outside of it as part of the shifting. So what is it in Death, Dying, and Bardo, where it's, you know, the end of the road, as in buck stops here, body says no. Gate 29. In death, before we die, the body has to go through certain processes in order to prepare for the disengagement of the ajna, the body, the design crystal, from its area of nesting within the ajna, released into the loving embrace of the gate 2. And then they exit the body. There are certain things that have to happen in order for the body to be prepared for that ending. And the 29, when the moon gets into 29, is when we have the ice moon of the body saying no to life and things clicking off, no longer regenerating as a generator. Those of us who are non-sacral, we don't regenerate, not in the same way. So now let's take it further and look at the global human creature. 29 is a gate activation that is part of the dedication to an experience, to succeed where others fail, when it meets the body in the determination of the self, 46. It's a tantric channel. The ability to persevere when it comes to the deep within the deep, despite difficulty, persistence has its inevitable rewards. No more persistence of this species. It's the end of our time, as far as we're not going to have the same kind of explosion continuing on to 10 billion people on the planet. Maybe, but not according to Ra. Okay, so we're looking at cardinal stars as part of the background frequency and ruling stars. These are the makeup of what creates this programming, the principles of programming, the directional forces, fields, if you will. Remember, they are stars, so they imprint us with neutrinos. Now, let's comparatively look at ruling stars and cardinal stars and see the link that exists within the two, thanks to Ra giving us for us to view. What he says is that it's fascinating and it's deeply, deeply significant that it represents the definition of 3955 between this huge mass of stars and their energetic imprinting fields. So this is the place where mutation is taking place, this energetic for moodiness, melancholy, sadness, romance, abundance, which is strictly a question of spirit, the provocation. When it comes to this place where the mutation is taking place, what's fueling the motor to turn off? Stars. One of the things that he's seeing. Okay? The impact. He's been teaching that the mutation in the way that it's impacting our evolutionary development. In other words, it's moving us from fully 7-centered to 9-centered over this process, opening up the viability of the emergence of raves, because this is part of the rave circuitry. When it comes to the 9-centered process of being able to open up the viability for our mutation to such a place where the Rave babies who will be born from us actually have the capability of full-blown spirit consciousness, unity consciousness, oneness consciousness within their fixed, because they will never leave it, 3 to 5 person Rave grouping. So this is the way that we can look at it from the perspective of where our evolutionary direction is taking us, according to Ra, that we can look at mutation in this context because of the stars, now that we see cardinal and fixed ruling stars. There we go, ruling stars. So he also says that the program sees that mutation in another context. The emergence of this mutation, as far as cosmic times, is that it's also the end of a process, our process. So rather than what we see as a growing 3955, moodiness, melancholy, sadness, romance, all those things, abundance, it appears to be as such to us because this is our experiential process with such things. It's our nature of interpretation. But accordingly to big picture view, it's the death knell of this entire process, because this young, formative, mutative star is the triggering mechanism, awakening, a new kind of awakening. We won't need the old kind of awakening. We have a new one in store. So we see Fomalhaut in 1900. It was in gate 55, line 4. Fomalhaut in 2000, 55, line 5. What do we know about the line 5? Line 5 is the furthest differentiation of any hexagram. It is what everybody expects it to be in its fullest flowering. 6th line, they've already moved up beyond. So this is why 2000 is when it stopped being the first magnitude star that was furthest away from us. And it is now that we are moving towards that star, moving towards us, however you want to put it. Depends on your point of reference, I imagine. So a 5th line is growth. It's a time of growth. Another analysis session I was listening to Ra, where he was talking about that this is the end of transformation. Think about the key. Remember I asked you earlier, do you have a 32? That's me. That's one of the keys to this era. And also, too, on the other side of the body graph, we have the gate 49 that is retracting, 19 and 49 pulling away from each other in order to embed themselves into the centers, their respective centers, 19 into the root, 49 into the solar plexus. So they're being mirror channels to each other. Remember 32 on the other side and marrying maiden 54, that is transformation. So that this Fomalhaut is closing a door on our 9-centered human creatures, beings, bodies, form principle, in order that we enter into a new stage, a new age. Fomalhaut, we can see in 2000, reading the Uranus exalted, the unusual ability in a position of power to accept advice and transform it innovatively. The gift in a position of power allows one to continue to lead rather than being perceived as being led. In other words, this is the emotional strength and spirit derived from positions of power. Sun, an unusual leader, granted, to be sure. 5, not only, is unique, but 55, different, part of individuality. Leadership can also be seen in Sun, detriment, an integrative openness that in its broad acceptance of advice may be eventually eclipsed. An emotional openness where the spirit is at risk from conditioning. So Sun affecting this line in that way. Now think about Fomalhaut behind if that person indeed has sun. Any planet, of course, but particularly we're looking at the line extremes, yeah? So sun itself, we think of sun as, gosh, it is the ruler of the heavens. It is the thing that gives light and life and meaning and core awareness and consciousness and all of these things. Sun detriment, the emotional openness where one's spirit, this is the gate of spirit, yeah, abundance, strictly a question of spirit, where the spirit is at risk of conditioning. Who wants a conditioned leader? Not in the negative, really. So just trying to give you language to help you link awareness, Maya, to the things that are true accordingly with the star Fomalhaut. Fourth line, that's the 1900s, so I don't know how many people would actually identify this unless they're ancient and historians. I mean, relatively speaking, they'd be quite over 100. If you look at what Doge found in our country, there's quite a few beings that are 100, 200, 300 in our plane collecting Social Security. I'm joking. They really found it, but obviously they're not collecting Social Security. The fourth line, assimilation. Jupiter exalts. We see the establishment of a framework that balances principles with energy and leads inevitably to expansion and prosperity. There's Jupiter. The possible spirit that comes when emotional awareness and energy are balanced and principled. Jupiter, balanced and principled. Mars detriments, as he often does. Nobody really appreciates Mars for his young, virile energy. Boundless energy that knows no restraint. Boundless energy that ignores awareness at the risk of spirit. Okay, so those are the imprinting of Fomalhaut in the current beings. Yeah. Histidine is 49 and 55. Again, why these two are both mutating relative to the energetic. You can see the codon here, histidine codon, which is, again, 49 here in the wheel and 55, hi Kali, under the realm of Kali, 13, 49, 30, 55. And the key to the mutative transformation that is going to take place in 2027, key to the mutative transformation, histidine. I really wish we could have a geneticist come into our courses and like really go deep into the realms of research, because wouldn't it be fun to see more of this kind of thing, meaning actual beings who are working physically with the information alchemically in their work, the nature of what they do for a living. So as you can see from this time scale, back here in 1781, there's the beginning of the cross of planning, here's the end. We can see Fomalhaut has been in that gate, 55, since before the nine-centered being emerged. So we had the preparation for, the parents. It takes the parents in order for the child to be birthed through. The parents to be birthed, carrying this genetic mutation. So the advent of the nine-centered being, Fomalhaut right there, smack square in 55, where we have the mutation of spirit consciousness. Abundance, strictly a question of spirit. So the importance of this star and in its particular position transcends what we would normally interpret about a star. That's why I'm letting myself just move through this quite slowly and see what emerges. As in, I'm not pushing to try and get it done in the time that it takes. My apologies, don't know what time. Oh, there we go. We're about close to the end. So what we're looking at is that there's this deep mutative potential that was obvious to Ra, those of us studying, obvious to us now that he's pointed it out and made us aware and informed us in such an impactful way. But one of the interesting things about Fomalhaut is that it's often associated with certain phenomena. And what phenomena might that be? Again, clear to Ra that it was a trigger closing of a process and look at the wide swath of time where it has sandwiched, or what is the word when it's encompassed, enclosed, both shifts, okay, the entirety of the cross of planning before and after. See how it's still here, after, well into after 2140. So we see that as far as when it's moving. So we see that the way that Ra likened it to, like him, was being a door closer. He was told that he was a door closer. And the 55, Fomalhaut, the star that closes the door, a poetic name. He had a lot of the poetic inside of him, 12s and all individuality, and I'm sure other things. But that's the only name that he could think of for Fomalhaut, door closer. So my mind trying to link, how would I remember Fomalhaut closing the door? Who's haughty, somebody who's like just a bit slam the door in your face. Okay, so something like that, where we can see the trigger of the closing of the process on us, nine-centered Homo sapiens and transitus, because we came at the end in order to pave the way for the new beings, the new frequency, because we are all frequency. So this cross of planning ending, Ross says it was so obvious to him that there are so many things to understand about historical movements, what we can see from the political respect, the perspective of our historical records, to actually be able to see what the configurations were that produced all that. And so what were the underlying mechanisms, mechanics of these ruling stars? What was the illusion that was being established by the royal stars, and how that was being played out in the background against the global cycle? So illusion is the royal stars, mechanics, ruling stars. Okay, the mechanics are the rulers, mechanics, ruling stars. The mechanics, ruling stars, yeah, ruling stars, established by the royal stars. Just trying to lock it in. It might be a futile endeavor for someone like me with a totally open ashna, particularly in this current nature of reality. So when we put the stars together, anyway, we look at them, seeing them here clearly, we can see that we've got a quantum. Just like when you put two gates, planetary bodies together, you have a quantum, something more than just what they are individually. We put all of these things together at the quantum, the largest possible level of looking at the drama of the nature of humanity currently in this reality. You see the phenomenon and how it's operating here on planet Earth. For us as students of the knowledge, we can see it's important if we can learn these things relative to the past, if that's your nature, you like studying the past, gate 13, is anybody? Relative to that, then there's much we can learn as far as applying what we have seen in the past and see what is about to take shape in our future. The future is upon us in 2007, and truly we are here in that frame of reference and being. And as we see the cross of the sleeping phoenix shifting the keys in the lock, this new cycle that emerges is supporting the evolution of humanity into the birth of raves, the emergence of the raves, the emergence of a conscious penta, as in external awareness from outside of the physical form within one unit of 3 to 5 people. It's a marker, as in an evolutionary future, an evolutionary marker, what Ra is speaking to here. Now, what we're really moving towards on this planet will not be fulfilled. Don't be confused and think that after the birth of the 9-centered human beings, we'll on this planet evolve into 11, because that's how things work. We went from 3-centered, 5-centered, 7-centered, 9-centered, 11-centered. It's not to be. No 9-centered human being will ever give birth to a 11-centered creature. I'm detailing because it was asked of me. So As that door closes in 2027, the closing of the door, it's shutting down our fertility, as in the human species. It's shutting down the fertility system. Remember, 55, opposition in the wheel is 59. So the opposition's being affected, obviously, as it's one of the gates in the background frequency, the new era, sleeping phoenix, you know. So 59, 55, 34, 20. And of course, we have the 57 in there as well as part of the channel construct. So it's a very powerful mutative shift individually and genetically and cosmologically. All of us human beings who are currently embedded on this planet is part of it. So in order that what we call Rave will emerge, ultimately, that is what the potential is going to create, is them coming together in terms of emerging through a conscious penta. We human creatures are not able to be conscious in our penta, not of each other. That's why people still have problems in the penta. There's this infighting, backstabbing, backbiting, what have you, when you have a non-functional, dysfunctional penta. So it's a remarkable time that we live in because we get to see the nature of our fundamental genetic reality, and we can engineer it, thankfully, to some degree, you know, or at least influence it in order to make life a little smoother for the beings who are dealing with such pain or suffering. Ra says, I cannot stress enough the beauty of what it is to be a passenger that is attuned to the evolutionary process. It's not practical. He knew that. It's not about being practical. It doesn't have to be practical. It's about enriching you as a passenger, your conscious awareness and what is beyond it or behind it, at the root, the source of it. Ra says that this was mind candy, and that this is the kind of things that a passenger needs in order to hone their perception. Now, it's not just fluff. It is something to chew on, to grasp if you can, to be able to see through the mind's lie and disbelieve the ego I is a phrase that I keep saying because it is the experiential processing of this awareness, regardless of the experience of the physicality and the nature of what the mind thinks about that suffering. There is so much more in store relative to the quality of your consciousness if you can simply disconnect so strongly from the I that thinks it thinks, therefore it thinks it is the only thing. No, not really. You are so much more than what this I believes or sees or knows even. You, the being in truth, the fullest, greatest totality of the quality of your cosmic consciousness in the nature of this reality. So seeing through the veils and, quote, to be able to see through the bullshit that's all around us, to be able to see through the not self and the not self delusion, and to understand what makes it all work. That is something that is absolutely beautiful to see. So if we take a cosmic perspective and we go outside and look at the stars, it's not about that they themselves uniquely are the source of the way in which the program operates according to Ra. They are these fixed stars that we've been looking at and shall continue to look at in these coming weeks, are poster children of the background of the neutrino ocean, the ones that Ra chose. These highlights or focal points of the neutrino background frequency, you know, cosmic reality. We are a vast data field of consciousness, that beam stream of neutrinos entering our own crystals and us being able to process that feed. Aware or not, we do it constantly. So it is the filtering of the consciousness data stream is not just something that we do, it's part of our entirety of our crystal consciousness field. Remember, every cell inside of your body has a crystal, not just these main crystals that we speak to, you know, the core fundamental nature of the reality that makes up you. It is a vast process, and the advantage of being able to look up at the sky again in the very modern way that we can potentially. Oh, there was a house here. LaVeena, for fun, she loves to shop real estate. Used to be a real estate broker, and there was this house close by that had its own observatory on top of the garage. I was like, oh, that would be so cool, to be able to see through the modern, not just naked eye of one of those giant telescopes. I'm not talking your little, backyard telescope, big. And to be able to take that kind of perspective, piercing through the space-time. Because, when you're looking up at stars, you're looking back in time. You're seeing ancient, ancient, ancient light. Yeah, getting an ancient feed. So Ra says, quote, I mean a cosmic perspective that rather than being concerned about the way in which the neighbor operates, to begin to see that the neighbor operates within vast laws, that within the context of the knowledge we have accessible, we are not here, actually, we are not here to be one with the program. Alakanon Diaz came up with I never took it, but it was beyond the time that I was studying with him. But he said the program is not you, as far as the nature of what it is that he was going through, taking people through transit reports. I think it was monthly or maybe quarterly. And if we can see through that, rather than being controlled by it, or even if we are, sometimes things happen and it's like you're watching yourself in a movie. If you've got the disconnection of the ego I from the mind that lies, it's almost like you are watching yourself in the movie and you can see, oh shit, that's that thing moving through me. Like when LaVeena accidentally tells a story that she knows is not necessarily something she wants wandering around the internet, gate 13 there, neutrino soup, influencing me to share. You can still be aware. And that really is the game, the truth of the whole movie. It's not about trying to control the homogenizing. You can't. You get conditioned. It's not like you can resist conditioning. You can see through it. And the very moment that you can see through it, this is when it becomes more clear to you relative, in my view, on personal perspective, as far as the fundamental core of the nature of you. So we are not here to be one with the program. We are here to see and to see clearly. And so I hope that with my aim and goal to help us see, that you can reflect upon the nature of your own reality